Hi, my name is Zach Peters, and I'm the Principal Curriculum and Development Specialist for the Mining Division here at Komatsu. What we're going to talk about today is what a difference a pandemic can make, right? We have experienced, as the rest of the world, we've experienced a great deal of change in the past year and a half, a year and 3/4, and I wanted to share some of that experience with you today. So some of the learning objectives that we're going to cover in this brief session are just a basic understanding of wearables, really more specifically designed towards the AR, VR, or mixed reality space, picking the right proof of concept, the right audience at the right time, responding to certain challenges, and then exploring new opportunities. What we're interested in is sharing our journey through this process. So a little bit about us and what we build. We, or our little corner of Komatsu here at Mining, we build the world's largest wheeled loader, right? It's got a 70 cubic yard bucket. If you want to compare that to most of the front end loaders that you'll see out there, most of them have a 3-yard bucket, and they consider that to be quite large. And ours is many times that size. It's about 15 foot to the operator's platform, right, to the cab. The wheel diameter is 13.5 foot, and it weighs about 296 tons without any load in the bucket. So a very large vehicle. The cool thing about the product that we make is that it's a hybrid vehicle. We were hybrid before anybody knew what hybrid was. Before there was a Tesla, before there was a Fisker car, we made hybrid vehicles, right? It's a diesel engine that turns at a constant RPM and creates and we turn a generator to create an electrical field for which we control the vehicle, right? When we're not engaged in actively driving the vehicle, when we're in braking, we push that mechanical energy generated by the mass of the vehicle back into the engine, and we can completely shut that fuel rail off. So we're burning zero fuel, but we're still able to perform the vital functions of the equipment. So if you're looking for more information about that, you can visit komatsu.com and look for the mining products page. Or if you're like I am, you can go to YouTube. You can go to Extreme Sandbox, do a search for Extreme Sandbox episode 60, and it'll take you to a really good expose of our piece of equipment. So our team, right, that was about Komatsu, but our team is, we're consisted of a little small group here in the training department. And it's almost by default that we got assigned to even start exploring the world of wearables and AR, VR. We've worked together since 2003. There are 3 or 4 of us here in the department, and technology is both a vocation and a hobby for us, right? So we're self-titled geeks, as evidenced by the Big Bang Theory picture located on the screen. However, we've been pioneering the use of technology in our segment of the business for years. In fact, we started using GoToMeeting to deliver training into Mongolia back in 2007, right? That was our first foray into a remote training session, right? Since then, we've developed several homegrown solutions. We develop our own test equipment, our own equipment to help the individual technician supporting the piece of equipment. We developed all of those in-house. So where we started in this process is one day we got a call from our director in Milwaukee, and he said, hey, there's a conference going on in Austin, which we believe is in your backyard. So geographically, yes, Austin is in Texas, and so is Longview. And he said, well, why don't you go check it out, see what this wearable stuff is all about, and then report back to us. We went to the conference and we left with more questions than answers. The biggest question that we had was, what problem are we trying to solve, right? What were we sent here to learn so that specifically we can know what it is that we need to report back. So we started to really dig into our question set, right? Luckily, we did something that none of us have ever done, and we took notes. We wrote down every question we had. And then when we got back to Longview, we started to dig into those questions. And what that led to, we knew that for us to be able to explain what we found out or what we saw at the Enterprise Wearable Conference, that we'd have to give our team a basic understanding of the certain concepts that were discussed. Where we thought we would have the most impact if we decided to focus on what we called XR or mixed reality, right? So there were several claims from several vendors that they were ready to go to market, that their product was robust, it was built, it was ready for prime time. And what we found was each one had certain limitations or lackings that kept it from being the vital solution that we were looking for. They were great in concept, and when they were fleshed out, which that was nearly 4 years ago now, or 3 years ago now, when they've been fleshed out over this period of time, some of those have actually come to fruition, and they work as they were designed to. But we noticed early on that there was just a little bit of a discrepancy between reality there on the right, or your right, and what was being pitched. So with that in mind, we set about picking the right proof of concept, right? So we decided that we were going to focus on XR technologies, that we wanted to put together a proof of concept and demonstrate that to our team. But we knew that we wouldn't be able to boil the ocean. So we very carefully considered what it is that we were going to do. We considered the most common problems that we faced. The problems in the field that required an SME from the factory to travel to the location to address the machine, right? What were the problems with that? Well, they were costly. They included a great deal of logistics, and they included sometimes customer downtime. With our mounting application, with that large wheel loader, right, we're moving about $500,000 worth of gold in a gold mine every hour, right? So downtime is something that our customers just can't afford, and therefore, consequently, neither can we. The other problem that we faced commonly was the processes in the field or the factory that required a great deal of expertise to perform, right? So how do we upskill or replicate those SMEs when they're just not available? If we have somebody who's traveled on site to Brazil, they're not also concurrently available to go attend to a machine in Australia. We focused on a vendor that was fairly device agnostic. We owned flat devices, iOS, tablets, things of that nature. However, we didn't own any wearables at the time. We had not budgeted for devices, and we didn't know that we were going to be able to purchase any. So we looked for something that would work on some of those wearable devices, the HoloLens, the RealWears, but would also work on the flat devices so that we could get a feel for how they worked. We also focused on two specific use cases. One was the See What I See, or the remote assistance application. And the other was an augmented reality step-by-step guide to a procedure. We worked on that process for nearly 8 months, right? We had numerous challenges, IT challenges. There were firewalls to get past. There were admin rights. There were usability inside our security domain, right? IT was not a part of this. This was being driven from this little group in Longview, Texas, in the training department. So without the IT buy-in up front, we had things that we had to figure out how to get through the limitation to make sure that they worked. We had a process that we needed to go back and forth with our NDA, right, to make sure that if we put information that was critical or sensitive to the machines that we were attempting to demo, that information didn't consequently leak and go on and have an adverse effect upon the company, right? One of the main challenges that we fought in this was getting the vendor to really understand what it was that we desired as an outcome. We knew what would be meaningful to our audience. The vendor knew their product and their standard demonstration that was meaningful to them. And sometimes those didn't always match up. So we had to have several conversations with the vendor to really get them to understand where it was that we wanted to go with the process and where we wanted to end up. And then not to mention the technical challenge of learning how to do this on our own. One of the things that we understood really early on was that it was great if the proof of concept involved a lot of hand holding from the vendor, if they did it for us the first time. But what we wanted to see was, how hard is it to learn the process? How long, if there's a specialty software that's used to create the visual experience, what's the workload per hour of visual experience that goes into that? Because that's going to dictate how many resources are going to be needed once the project goes live and gets out of the proof of concept phase. So we need to be able to advise our human resources and our capital senior leadership partners exactly how many people would be required to bring this to fruition and push this across the numerous product lines, not just our own, but every product within the Komatsu family. So we need to make sure that we had an adequate understanding of just what the heavy lifting would be. Well, as you can guess, it's all about the right audience at the right time. We knew that we had, in that 8-month period, we knew that at the end of that, we had the best audience to be able to demonstrate these technologies to. Every 2 years, we host a what we call a train the trainer conference here at our facility in Longview. We bring all of our trainers from around the world here. We also bring subject matter experts. We bring our engineering teams, our manufacturing teams. We bring them all into one location. We talk about the changes that have been made on the equipment for the past 2 years. And then we go through the process of saying, these are the new things that are coming out. Here are the new tools that we've developed for you to use. So we knew that in this proof of concept, we would be in front of the right people to make those decisions. And that took place in the summer of 2019. We spent 6 hours of one day of that week-long process discussing the 2 use cases, right? We had time for question and answer. We also gave plenty of time for each of those SMEs or trainers to get their hands on the product, on the demonstration, and actually thoroughly go through it and vet it for themselves. The response, I don't get it. I've got a phone with FaceTime. I can just read the manual. There wasn't buy-in. They thought it was neat. They thought it was great, but to them at the time, it was simply technology for technology's sake. There was no real application. There were too many limitations in the proof of concept, in the things that we had been able to do for them to really cognitively say, yes, this is a viable product and it's something that we desperately need to be able to go forward. So we had to respond to all of those challenges. And then all hell broke loose. 2020, we kicked off a global pandemic. There was, as everybody is, I'm sure, well aware, things that we had done in the past, we could no longer do. The SMEs could not travel to remote locations. Experienced employees began to miss time at work, and that left lesser skilled employees to be able to assemble complex systems, right? So where it's not the same person who's been building this hybrid machine for the past 20 years doing the work. It's somebody that we've hired 6 months ago. We also couldn't do on-site training anymore. Now, if you'll remember, we We pioneered GoToMeeting in our training processes back in 2007. All right, so luck favors the prepared mind. We were able to spin that and pivot that in our own practice and go from a live face-to-face training situation in which people would travel from all over the world here to Longview, and we would teach them how to operate and troubleshoot our equipment, to a virtual face-to-face. We converted one of our training rooms into a video production facility in which we had green screen technology. So we were able to superimpose the instructor onto the instruction material, just as if he were standing in front of a whiteboard doing the demonstration. So it gave a situation in which it was as close to a live interaction as possible, all using Microsoft Teams, the video production suite, and several cobbled together homemade systems, because the technology to do what we wanted to do didn't exist in the format where it was easily consumable. Right. Now, the big one was during this period of time, or right at the end of 2019, going into 2020, at the very beginning of the outbreak, our group in Milwaukee had sold a shovel into a mine in Russia. A shovel is even larger than a wheel loader, and those are not assembled at the factory. The first time that those machines go together is in the field. So you have a huge complex machine that's never seen parts of itself until you get to the remote location. Generally, we send a factory team, and it takes about 30 days to construct one of these machines in the field. With COVID, we didn't have that luxury. We were going to have to support a local team at a mine site in Russia who'd never seen a shovel before, and have them be able to assemble it with the same reliability that our team from Milwaukee would normally be able to deliver that machine in. So we had a vice president who recognized that challenge was out there. He'd heard about our group, our foray into XR technology. He went out and purchased a RealWear headset, sent it to us, and said, tell us, is this a viable option to solve the problem? Can we put our information into the hands of the technician there on site? Can we do remote assistance? Can we get him what he needs to be able to correctly assemble this machine and have it work straight out of the box? Of course, with any technology, as we'd already experienced, there were definitely IT challenges. First, we had to prove that it could be done, right? Before we even went and talked to our own internal IT network. So we set up a network system outside of our office environment, in which we were unfettered. We didn't have to play by security rules, and we made it work. We showed the proof of concept. We said, yes, we can actually deliver remote assistance down the street. If we can do it down the street, presumably we can do it around the world. We cataloged what the pitfalls would be. Would there be connectivity where the devices were located? What kind of connectivity would that be? Is that a 3G network? Is it still a 2G network in Russia? We didn't know, but we made our best efforts to try the process across several devices to see if we could connect a RealWear device to a phone and use that as the internet connection. Was it stable enough to be able to pass images back and forth so that we could accurately diagnose problems that might come up in the field? So in addition to making it work off network, just to be able to prove that it worked, we also had to work with our security team, because as we tried to bring it into our network and make the connectivity here, we utilized Microsoft Teams. The RealWear device had gone into a beta application where they were using Microsoft Teams. We attempted to use that. We found that there were several issues around our company policies. We had to go through the company Intune portal. There were some other settings that had to be managed and vetted and make sure that all the ports were correctly secured at the right places. And luckily, we had willing partners in IT to work with us to make sure that we were able to bring that into our network And within a 1 month period, we had a proven, vetted solution to be able to take the RealWear device and actually apply it to this shovel build that took place in Russia. And we were able to complete that in a very similar time frame to the normal build cycle. We were able to have two-way communications with the technicians in the field and to be able to support them as they put together a machine that they had only supported and never brought through the commissioning process. Once we proved that there was a viable solution to the problem, the demand for these devices exploded worldwide, not only from a commercial standpoint where you had other companies competing for them, but within our own company, right? Everybody wanted to get their hands on this technology because they knew that it had power to be able to reach, at least in the limited use case that we had demonstrated its usefulness in. So we needed to sit down and expand other opportunities for that device and also the applications that would be used on that device to support our business going forward. What else can we use it for that would justify the cost of each of those pieces of equipment? Experience had already shown that there were two real aspects in the use cases, right? There was the device, which we had selected, and the application that would be used on the device. So to help perform that analysis, we developed a scorecard system to drive all of our decision making, right? The device scorecard included things like connectivity, working environment, and usability, right? If you're sending video, what does that video look like if you're sending it from a remote location? If you've got two-way communication, will you be able to support it in a mine site where sometimes cellular technology doesn't exist? Today, we have a robust program. We're working with satellite providers to expand the use of their networks to be able to utilize these devices on. We also created a scorecard for the application or the platform, right? So one of the biggest challenges with that was the compatibility. If you've looked at a platform, is it device agnostic? Will it work across flat devices, right? Those iOS and Android phones and tablets? Will it work on wearables? Will it work on a desktop? So when you're on a wearable in the field, but your counterpart in engineering is on the desktop, how does that connection happen? What does that experience look like? We also looked at the uses, right? The see what I see, right? That remote assist technology or work instructions. Or in our case, what we found is that there was an absolute need for SME capture, right? So how do we go out there and capture what that subject matter expert has been doing for 20 years so that we can catalog that into a work instruction, right? So almost taking it back to the starting point. And then annotations. If you put something on the screen, if you can put something on the screen in the application or platform, is it bidirectional? Can both people mark up the screen? Is it sticky? Is it geospatially located, right? So if I turn my head and I turn my head back, did it stay in the same place or did it follow me as I move the device? Live communications, right? Are they one-to-one, one-to-many, many-to-many? How do you host and join a call? Is there a limitation, right? Do you have to have a license to do these things? How do you change views? Can I change from what I'm seeing in the field to what is being, to what the engineer sees in the factory? That way we can use examples from both. And then work instructions, right? Do they allow for deep linking to additional resources? Can you get to your drawing files? Are they stepped, right? Do they progress in a logical fashion? Can we build in API hooks, right, for use with SAP and other timekeeping programs, other ERP tools. And then can you scan to start? So if you put a barcode on your piece of equipment, can you walk up, scan that barcode, and it automatically knows which piece of equipment that you're utilizing and what the processes are for that piece of equipment. So that's where we are now. We're in that process of developing all of these exciting new opportunities. We have nearly, I believe the last count, it was nearly 50 use cases that we're exploring on a multitude of different platforms to figure out which one's going to be the best fit. I'm not going to tell you who we're partnering with. However, we're very happy with the way that a few of them are progressing so far. Right. So with all that said, I just wanted to share a little bit about our journey, how we made it through, what we're able to do in the next phase. We have complete buy-in from the highest levels within our organization. They're excited to see the technology as it's developing, and we're at the forefront of trying to figure out exactly where the best use is within our company. So if you have any additional questions, you can contact me at any of the links below, or you can put your question and answer in the contact box to the right of the screen, and I'll be happy to answer them for you in the live Q&A session. Again, it's been a pleasure. My name is Zach Peters with Komatsu, and I appreciate your time.